Hello everyone, this is Chris. This week's EQ discovery is navigating ambiguity. It is a differentiating discovery. It is what separates, it's one of the things that separates really great leaders from good leaders. So it's a differentiating practice. And I think it's because there's so much of it out there. Ambiguity abounds, how life is ambiguous, right? Every journey starts with a lot of uncertainty. What's interesting is the higher we go in organizations, the more ambiguity exists. So the likelihood of a C-level, departmental directors, VPs, them actually knowing what a solution would look like is not very likely. I remember that as we move up in an organization, technical skills tend to wane. The demand on those technical skills wane as we get more into leadership, interpersonal skills, likability, things like that. It's more strategic as we approach those higher levels of organizations, which is why the technical solutions are often unknown. So for leaders looking to drive action, the only kind of management is change management. So for leaders that are looking to drive action, we have to understand a lot of times we're not going to know exactly what the solution should be. So we're going to have to direct that activity from a place where the solution may be unknown, and we're going to have incomplete information. So how do we determine which actions are most appropriate given the situation? And at the end of the day, the answer is ask great questions, right? We have to, if we don't have the data provided to us, we have to source the data. We have to ask the questions, and things like who is the owner, who is the customer, who's the performer, what actions are required, in what time frame, what is the kind of the standards for accepted performance. Getting agreement on all those things and that ability to stack hands and rally a team, it's huge. And how we go about that process of discovery it has a huge impact on our ability to execute or our effectiveness as leaders. Take, for example, if I'm observing a process or observing production or delivery, maybe it's marketing presentations, if I'm observing these things and I ask the performer, why do you do it that way? It will immediately put them on their heels. So what we want to understand, we're seeking understanding. The direct line to the data may very well be, why do you do it that way? But the understanding we're looking for is more around, hey, it's really innovative how you do that. Can you help me understand how that became the best practice? Where did we find success with this previously? What challenges were we addressing when this surfaced as the way we're going to do things? So going to the performer today with care and respect and seeking understanding versus just gather all the data. We're going to change how we're perceived. And when we ask the question in a way that is seeking understanding, we're changing the psychology of the respondent. We want them to willfully give and be connected with us in the project that we're trying to execute in support of them. So, that's something that's mission critical is our styling, how we engage. We talked about trust in another EQ discovery. Being able to develop that at speed is mission critical. It helps with all of this because that respondent, that performer is going to be more willing to share when we have that speed of trust. In this whole idea of appreciative inquiry really calls out the need to identify the best of what is. So when we're observing, we're not looking for what's wrong with the process. That's afterthought. We're looking for what's right about the process. What is it that's already existing within that structure, within that organization, within that work team that can help us develop an understanding for now of what is good. Then take that idea of what is good and collectively design and collaborate for that ideal future state. And this is why at PMPG, we always start with the DNA of the organization, looking at those innate strengths, the strengths of those work teams, that then when we collaborate with them can really drive performance forward, because we're not changing anything about who they are at the core or what's already really good. We're trying to remove a lot of the noise or the just unnecessary suffering and I guess unproductive activity that might be going on, and just let the people do what they're good at. But there are times when clarity isn't possible. So, during those times, when we find it to be super elusive, and oftentimes senior leaders will utilize strategic ambiguity in an attempt to arrive at a more innovative solution. And that is a very ethical way to use strategic ambiguity, to say, they might have a thought, but they're not going to pollute the water, so to speak, or spoil the bunch. They're going to let the people that are closer to the problem identify the solution. And that's fine. Again, that's an ethical way to use strategic ambiguity. A lot of times they just won't know the solution, and that puts us back in that same state we talked about earlier. We're dealing with CEOs, VPs, directors. They're not going to have the technical solution or the actual line level change that we need to grow the organization. So we're left to figure it out. That's the whole idea of being a consultant. So during the very frequent times we find ourselves in these situations where no one knows and we're left to figure it out, what do we do? And I think the best thing we can do is really lean in. And if multiple solutions are acceptable, something that we adhere to and abide by is selecting the solution that is most energizing. Which one allows me to have confidence and champion the solution all the way through the organization? Which is the one I can believe in, I know can charge our team, it can charge me up and get me out of bed to do the work every day. The next thing is exhibiting a bias to action. Anytime we don't exactly know what's going on, just start moving. We can't wait for all the information. We can't wait for all the data. Let's get in the car. Let's get down the road. We will figure it out. So much of the information we would typically wait on emerges or reveals itself after we start going. So let's not wait to build the Ferrari. Let's jump in the Camry and go down the road. The next thing is when we don't know what the solution is going to be, anchor to what is best for the most. Look at that at 30,000 feet and say, this one is going to lift up the most people. This one is going to make the most lives positively impacted. So where can we improve lives? Take a look at that and say that's the solution maybe we should work towards. And then also we have to dispel any fear of failure and create an environment where if we run into challenges, if we run into issues, these things are learning opportunities and where best practices can emerge from. So if we think about how we learn very little from success, and we learn a lot from challenges and failure. So as long as we're heeding those, taking those to heart, and applying them in our next engagement, our next initiative, we're going to be a lot better off. So those are some just kind of tips and tricks on what to do when we run into ambiguous situations. Pick the one that's energizing, or pick the path that's most energizing, show a bias to action, anchor to the concept that's best to most, and dispel this fear of failure. Right? As consultants, we have to learn and we have to face challenges. So those are my thoughts on navigating ambiguity. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the discovery. Look forward to talking with you guys about it very soon. For now, everyone have a great day. Let's go win this one.